All right. Okay. So in the instructions, we were told to take the implicit bias tests that Harvard had created. We were told to pick two, and then give our reactions to how we had felt about, those biases, whether we were expected to see them as they were or surprised. I'll go ahead real quick and just do my two. I did Trump and so it gave me two presidents, right? I did the two presidents. It gave me Trump and Lincoln. And I showed a much faster rate of associating Lincoln with good and Trump with bad. I've said this before, it doesn't surprise me. I'm not somebody who had to change ideology through my life, right? I grew up pretty liberal, it stayed with me. Um, and I don't even like to say liberal, progressive. So, yeah, I would say I'm very progressive. I really just believe in humanity, humanity, that we're all the same, that we're all equal, we afford all the same rights and everything like
Yeah.
that. Um,
Yeah.
so, and I specifically see Trump as somebody trying to remove those things. So it would make sense to me that that's how I saw that. My second one is I had it, I think it was just, I don't know if it's a straight, but anyway, it was straight or gay is what I got.
Not
Um
the cis trans one. No,
no, I
straight or
didn't,
gay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't do this. Yeah, I didn't do cis or
Those
trans.
were
I
different.
went to
Yeah.
cis and gay. Um
Okay.
so I was a little surprised that I was slightly faster at pairing straight with good. As somebody who identifies with the LGBT community and somebody who's been an ally since I left the church, which was a million years ago now, um, I was a little surprised. But then, I did some digging and thought back on, most of our biases are really
Mm,
unintentional,
mm,
and they come from somewhere. And I think that for me, I grew up in two really extreme religions, at least by my viewpoint. I understand other people may not see it that way. Catholicism and Mormonism. Now Mormonism is still it's a pretty racist. uh, I was taught one time that in Sunday school, God painted the people black so that we would know who was bad.
Oh God.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know.
Oh.
No, it was a deliberate Sunday school lesson. Okay.
Dude.
I went home crying.
Yeah. Yeah. Understandable.
And then Catholicism, right up until about, I mean, it's on train now, but like it's ever so specifically on train with
Yeah.
LGBTQ, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we're okay with this a little bit, but
It's always behind. It's
it is.
always like
It
behind
is.
the mark. Yeah.
So I'm assuming I mean, that stuff got really ingrained, I would assume, right? And both of those churches
Yeah.
do a really good job at indoctrination.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
Catholicism a really great job with shame. So I would assume that that's where it comes from. I don't really, um, I'm trying to think. I don't purposely at any point in time watch anything that would paint any
Hmm.
from the LGBT community in a bad light. Like I'm not
Hmm.
going to consume that material.
Yeah. You're conscious of your media.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Like
Yeah.
this stuff stays here.
Yeah.
So that's for me. Would you like to give
Yeah. Yeah. I'll jump in. And just to say quickly, I think that this exercise was, I can see the necessity of it, especially going into being counselors. And it's really important to know these biases because I'll share one that, like, same thing was expected and one that was unexpected. Um, and it wasn't nice to look at the unexpected one where I was like, no, consciously, on the surface, I'm like, no, I don't think that way. But to be able to have those things flagged and then rather than, a shame turning away from it or rejecting it, rather than doing that, getting curious about where it might have come from, there's a reason it's there, and just awareness.
knowing that there might still be some work to do, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think shame stops so many people because they
Yes,
just be like, oh my God, but then they don't
yes,
remember, like, look, you probably didn't put all that messaging there. I mean, look at all
yeah,
this ugly self messages we tell ourselves.
yeah,
We put those there usually, right?
yes,
So,
yes. Yeah, my therapist is always like, whose voice is that? Where did that come from?
is that yours?
Yeah, exactly. Who's in the room with us right now? Um, So I will share mine. So, like we talked about last time, I did a lot of them just because it's fascinating, and I think I want to go back and maybe do all of them. But the first one I'll talk about is I did light skin versus dark skin, and my results were I was moderately faster at sorting dark skinned Hispanic people with bad and light skinned Hispanic people with good, which was a very uncomfy finding. But yeah, in thinking about it, there is societal teaching, those messages get in your head. And then also, we talked about last time, I thought it was interesting of just in general, the imagery is dark is bad, light is good. And
Yeah, I get
so,
associated with those things. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so, even just keeping that in your head when you're working with lots of different kinds of people. And especially as far as race goes, that message is perpetuated even within racial groups. I remember I studied in my undergrad with a girl from India, and she was from northern India, and I learned a lot about the racism of India, just within India, of like northern light-skinned,
Don't
southern
they still have
dark-skinned.
India still have a class system too?
Yeah, the caste system is very real, and yeah, it opened my eyes to like that kind of thinking is still very alive and well,
I
even in non-white circles.
I think racism is a really hard one. I
Yeah.
really, really do. I'm gonna tell you a moment I was ashamed of, and I almost want to cry. Um,
Oh,
I I do not find myself racist, right? I would not say on a very conscious level
yeah.
participate in any form of racism. Um, and I'm educating myself constantly and making myself sit with uncomfortable things about that because I think that's
Totally.
my job to do. Um,
Totally.
and so I once got in and I got in an elevator with a man who's a lovely looking man and he was an African American man and I remember getting uncomfortable instantly. Ah, and I sat there and I was like, I called my
Yeah.
mom and I was like, this was so uncomfortable. First of all, my mom
Yeah.
getting in the elevator alone with any form of man first because she's a
Yeah.
woman, right? Like, okay,
Right.
not what
Right.
we're dealing with right now.
Right.
Um, and that was just such an instant
Mm,
reaction. And so
mm,
I really monitor that now. Like, am I sitting in a parking lot and that happens? Or, and then just really dealing with, okay, this is really ugly. I don't like
yeah.
this. I
I
have
don't have it.
to like, but
Yep.
there are so many people who are disadvantaged if we don't sit with the ugly of how we're
You
feeling,
have to. You have to.
because their world, I saw one person of color, she posted this, she goes, the white people are living the American dream. We're living the
Yeah.
American nightmare.
Yeah.
And
Because of the
the
privilege of the
least,
color of your skin,
right, the
you
least
have a
we
different
can do
experience.
is sit with our
Mm,
uncomfortability and fix something.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 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 And yeah, that's true empathy. That is true caring about
And
people
I know
at
I still get it
large,
wrong. I
people
know
in
I did.
general.
I'm sure I got a
Well,
little bit of white saviorism in here. And
oh yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's just yeah, the messages run deep. And
yeah,
so that's why it really takes conscious deconstructing
yeah.
to really get in there and look at it. And I'll say one last thing and then we need to move on because you and
Yes,
I we're
I'm
gonna make this an hour call. But living in Chicago really expanded that for me and challenged that for me in a really good way. Just being around diversity was really good for me. And I found in moving back to Iowa, I missed that.
Oh yeah,
Um,
our diversity is so slim.
yeah, yeah. And in Des Moines, it's like it's there, but you have to like look for it. And I have found this is not flattering, but again, it's like just look at it and challenge it. I have found because I am around white people so often, I'm like very conscious of meeting someone who's not white. And not that
Get what
I'm
you're saying. Yep, I get what you're saying with that. Yeah,
not that I'm jumpy by any means, but I'm
it's
so
different.
used to
It's
not seeing
foreign.
it that it's like very conscious to me. And in going back to Chicago and visiting friends, it's nice to get back into the diversity and the multiculturalism and remember like I love this. I enjoy this. I expand when I'm around people who are different than me. Um, and so in general, it's just got my husband and I thinking about our ideal town that we settle in and that kind of thing. Like it's
That's
it's
such a
such a
good.
value. Yeah, to
We do
be
that
around
with
people who are different.
I grew up in rural Iowa. There's nobody
Yeah.
of color. Now it's one of the biggest towns in Iowa, right? Waukee. When I went to Waukee, we were one
Uh,
room house, right? Where now it's huge as hell.
right.
Um, and it was not, we had maybe two kids of color at any point in time. And my
Yeah.
kids go to a rural school because that's originally where we went. And people like, oh, you're gonna then take them to the next rural school in middle school. I was like, absolutely not. Like
Hmm.
we're
Hmm.
not gonna
Hmm.
do that. The only people you see are people that look just like you and sound
Yeah.
just like you.
Yeah.
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 Okay,
Yeah.
so you have
Yeah.
one more, right?
I have one more.
Yes.
And so I'll do it quick and then we can move on to question two. But the other one that I did was cis trans.
Sure.
And so my results were I was moderately faster at sorting cisgender people with bad words and transgender people with good words. Um, and yeah, I was happy, honestly, to see to see this. I think especially, just recently getting out of like a high control, hyper Christian type of environment. I have been working to expand in this area and come to understand more. And so I'm happy to see the change in me.
Very cool.
Um, and then also it makes sense that I'm feeling very warmly towards the trans community with everything that we're going through. And I'm feeling very, very frustrated and disappointed in
Yeah.
cisgender people with how targeted this community is becoming and
Well,
how vulnerable they already are. And to be othered in such a political landscape is literally terrifying for their existence. And there are so many cis people who just care, don't care at all.
I think we as like white people tend to like forget how safe we feel, even when we don't feel safe. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
what you mentioned about trans people, right? I mean, like, and what's great about like I hate globalization and love globalization. Um,
Right.
but I mean, like the 80s were hell for transgenders people. I mean, for anyone in LGBTQ. I mean, this was back alley
Hmm.
dealings in the 80s, you know, and it
Hmm.
sucks that now there was somebody said this, I don't remember. What happened when Trump became president is everyone who's racist and just disgusting and had hateful beliefs stayed in the closet.
Yep.
But when Trump became president, all those people came out of the
Yes.
closet, and it was scary as hell how many people that you knew had been sitting there the
Yes.
whole damn time.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes. They're emboldened. I always say
yeah, the
Trump brings out
emboldenment of it.
the
Oh
worst
yeah.
sides of people.
Even in his own people, let's just not get started on the shooting that happened.
I
You know,
know.
Charlie. But
I
even
know.
in their with their own.
Yep. 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 Yeah, I have my best friend is gay and it's been really important for me to hear her experience uh because I forget how protected I am being married to a man. My lifestyle is a lot more acceptable and palatable on the surface. And she is experiencing the current landscape a lot differently than I am. And it's like essential, I think, that I hear her experience with that so that I don't lose track of what this is like for people who are
Mhm.
not in my position, who don't have the like privileges and the safeties. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's huge.
Could you read question two? Because I
Yeah.
gave myself headers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I got it. All right. So, question two is discuss what needs you have that are being met by becoming a mental health counselor and how these needs might lead to potential areas of vulnerability and sources of therapeutic error. Um, so, since I'm talking, I'll go ahead and jump in. So, I discussed last time I found a lot of value in the Enneagram, and I've realized, yeah, so I'm an Enneagram 4, and where the Enneagram 4 goes in stress and unhealth is to the 2, the helper. And so that, until I started really doing my deconstructing work in the last 5 years, that's really where I've lived, is at that
The
unhealthy
helper. It's
2.
not that the helper isn't great, but we just
Yeah.
automatically, oh, well, you're a helper.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, exactly.
sacrifice if you're not a healthy helper.
Exactly. And so it would get to when I was in that space, I would be taking over responsibility for people. And then I also would be applying, my family had a very enmeshed model. And so I would be helping, but almost in the enmeshment, trying to weave myself into other people's brains and anticipate needs and make them my full responsibility. So just a total lack of
And you're
boundaries.
safe though, but right, that's how you stay safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's how I stay safe. It's how I stay valuable to other people. It's how I am liked by other people, which keeps me safe. So boundaries was the whole reason I always wanted to do this kind of work. I definitely gravitated towards it, but I swore it off because I'm terrible at
Yeah.
boundaries. In high school, I would be like counseling the youth group boys over MSN Messenger who are just like, having all these mental health issues. And I was way in over my head and I would feel chained to my computer even when I didn't want to be anymore. And I just was not good at
That's gonna
cutting
be
that
the hard
off.
part for people. And I think most of us that go into this are have a helper mentality of a bit,
Yeah.
even if that's not
Yeah.
go, right? And so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I think is something that we all have to watch for.
Yeah, completely. So just the combination of the coursework and then the work that I'm doing in therapy right now to really, I would say like the cornerstone of the work that I'm doing for myself is differentiation, differentiating me from other people. And in doing that, I'm building my identity, I'm building my boundaries, I am getting the box that is me, that is not other people. And so it's like that's going to serve me well, but I'm like definitely watching the pacing of the work and I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to move this along. I want to be ready to be
Oh,
able
I know what that
to,
feels like. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, I want to get there so that I can make sure, I keep myself safe. I do no harm to other people. And I know I'll get there, but it's definitely something I've got eyes on.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I would say the same thing. I'm an Enneagram 7. We stress to a 1, which I love ones. I really freaking do. I think they're some of the best people in the world. Um,
Hmm.
however, a bad one is very judgmental. And oh yeah, like I have to
Yeah.
know that in the unhappiest times of my life, that's exactly who I was. And that's how I know that only unhappy people are going to judge you because
Yeah, it's so
I don't know,
true.
I know that for a fact because I've been there.
Yeah.
So I kind of just talked about Maslow's way of doing it. So, right, the safety component of being able to control my own schedule, obviously finances, things like that. Schedule is really important to me. I have 2 kids. I kind of focus my life pretty kid centric. And so that was really important to me. I also strive for connection. I love connection, even though I don't ever want to
Mm.
leave my home.
Mm. That's
Um,
real.
once I'm out, then yes, I'm very,
Yes.
I love that. And so I think that will be good, but also like you were saying, even though we're
Mm.
looking for connections, we need to make sure that they're a professional boundary connection, right? And again, not kind of doing anything that's codependent or over,
Yes.
oh, what's the word? When we see somebody who's gone through the same trauma that we have, what is it? Like,
Mm.
I forget what that word is, but where we over attach or, to that,
Over
make
identify.
that doesn't, thank you, over identify.
Is that that's not transference, is it? Or it
I
maybe
think it's a bit of
a
transference,
little
but I think
bit?
it could be
Yeah.
projection too, right?
Right, right, right.
Knowing that just because we went through a very similar situation, our
You're like,
genetics
oh, I know exactly how that is, how that goes.
exactly,
Yeah.
and not taking that
Mm,
away from the client. Because I'm also ADHD and I do something very much particular like you, as I anticipate other people's needs constantly. It keeps me safe about
yeah.
growing. And so I make
Yeah.
sure that in those situations, I'm not interpreting where my patient is going to go and letting
Yeah.
that.
That's
Um,
so good. And that's like keeping the active listening and
mhm,
hanging back and,
yep.
being ready to receive the information. Yeah.
Right, right. And I think for people of us that have experienced trauma too, that are going into this field, we have felt so silenced in our lives that we constantly want to share so we can be heard and remembering that like that there's a time and place for that and our profession isn't where we go to do that part.
That is such a good point because yeah, as I've been discovering my story, I want to tell my story. And that's even led to me
Hard to, but yeah, yeah.
oversharing to people I don't even know very well. So,
I hate that. I hate that. It's just
mm,
get uncomfortable by your story because they don't have to deal with the world looking like that, and that's their problem. Like in my opinion,
yeah,
it took me a while to get there, but that's a you problem. It's
I
none of
like that. I
uh,
like that. I think micro skills is also going to be really good for this kind of thing that we're talking about of differentiating, like what is it like to chat with a friend or a colleague or,
correct.
in that form versus patient counselor relationship.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Another sense of thing is accomplishment, right? Maslow talks about that. I'm somebody who was taught that my self-worth is my outcome, how much
Hmm.
I can put out and how well it's done.
Mm.
And so I need to make sure that if I don't have a client progressing in like the way that I think they should, that I'm not taking that on me and remind
Huge.
myself that everyone has their own journey. It takes their own freaking time. I've been on this journey for 10 plus freaking years. And sometimes I feel like I'm a million miles from it. And then some days I'm like, did we just start this?
Yeah, huge.
So, remembering that. Um, and then what was the last one? Um, nope, that was it. Okay. So yeah, I think that
That's great.
yeah, that's my stuff. So, do you want to do the next question? Because again,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
values, biases, and impacts.
Yes, yes, I got you. So, next question is discuss fully your values and biases and how each of these values and biases might affect your therapeutic work with clients who present with these issues related to your biases. Um, so I wrote down, I'm very personally connected to the do no harm mission of this field. And I anticipate that I may struggle sitting across from a client that is maybe actively psychologically harmful to those around them. And the teaching around counselors needing to maintain unconditional positive regard for clients has been helpful for me in that aspect. Um, and then I also wrote, I have trauma related to men, and I imagine it could be challenging, yeah, to that's going to be something I'm going to have to work through, overcome. And I'm stealing yours before you can say it, but I also resonated with it last time of yeah, a bias against men, a bias against religion, with my religious trauma and all
Right.
of that. I think I'm going to have to work hard to make space for that. And again, if someone's religion is harming people that I know, people that I love, that kind of thing, I'm going to have to really breathe through that and figure out how to kind of navigate that for sure.
So I agree with you. I obviously I have a lot of trauma with white men.
Hmm.
And I mean I've had my first 30 something years of life were pretty traumatic.
Mm.
And they involved men. Um, so, but that doesn't, when we say all men, we're not saying that we hate men. Okay, we don't. We're
Right.
getting the patterns and stuff that have developed, the toxic masculinity, the things that
Yeah.
have kept men in a position of power where they're not questioning what they're doing is harmful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I found that it can even be triggering to be next to a man who's not actively harmful, but doesn't understand why women maybe have this past or this reaction to men, or if they haven't ever considered it or deconstructed it, that even can be very triggering.
agreed. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna do the same things as you. Religion the same. I struggle if your beliefs are going to justify harm, dehumanization, if it's to hold on to values that perpetrate any kind of cruelty. Look, that's just an ethical thing for me. I'll have to move you to another one. I know I'm
Yeah.
going to be strong in women, LGBTQ, and children, right? That is where my compassion comes in.
Yep. Yep.
That is where my love comes in, and
Yep.
that kind of stuff. Okay,
Yep.
to get moving quick. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So changing biases, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What are two things you can do to change people's minds about their biases, prejudices?
So I can go first. Research shows
Yeah.
that people feel emotionally ambivalent. I'm using a quote from, I hate having to say people's names. I think it's Moskowitz from 2012.
Okay.
Holding both discomfort and curiosity at the same time, they are less to be defensive. So I think you and I kind of agreed with this last time that you want
Yeah.
to create a space that feels safe where we do our best to hold shame off as like you said what we did before was getting curious and
Yes.
I know whenever I have a fear, I've done this my entire life. I know it's from somewhere because I don't have enough knowledge about something. I've just figured that out, right? Like motorcycles scared the crap out of me, and then I was like, I'm gonna learn how to drive a motorcycle. And I was like, oh, this
Good for
thing
you.
stay up. Okay, now I know I'm not terrified. Okay. And so that's what I've done throughout life is just look, if this is scaring me, I probably just don't have enough information. And so I think the same thing we can do with clients and ourselves. For myself,
100%.
yeah, for myself, real quick, I plan to be mindful. And I believe in pre-session prep, especially if it's going to be somebody who I know would not be of the clientele that I'm most comfortable with.
Mm.
I'll use men for an example. There are men I love in my life. Absolutely. I love, and they're all cis and they're all white.
Hmm.
Um, and just reminding myself every single time that bringing the love I have for the men in my life into that session. Um,
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah.
making sure I believe in, I believe in mentors a ton. I believe in staying in therapy my entire life. And supervision and consultation just to keep me in check and making sure that,
Yes.
the people that we are choosing for that are people that we feel safe with and who's
Yeah.
safe enough to tell us, hey, you might be coming at it this way.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
me.
Perfect. Perfect answer. Yeah. Yeah. I think we ended up lining up, I think exactly the same on that.
But
And I had talked about a therapist changing my world in general by introducing just that curious scientist approach. Because
hard though too, right? To not
it's
just be
hard.
reactionary.
It's hard. And like, I mean, I know we all deal with shame. But yeah, shame was it was my first go-to. It was my beginning and end. Like I was just so stuck in it. And then I found that I even used shame as armor. It was just a way I kept myself really small. It was
Yeah. Yep.
a
Deflecting.
way I kept myself from like learning. I'm like, I don't know, I just suck. That's
Oh,
the
I see what
beginning
you're
and end
saying. Yeah,
answer.
I get
Yeah.
that. I get that. I kept shame from wanting more.
Mm.
And I suppose as women and women who've gone through trauma, okay, women are often told like you got to be humble. What
Yes,
humility mean? And look, like I'm not talking that humility isn't something that we should have as humans. I'm not
of
saying that.
course.
What you're really telling women is, hey, you're not supposed to take up space.
Yeah, don't take up space.
Okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think shame works so well on women for that.
Yeah.
And I swear it took me probably 2 years to figure out how the hell just to get out of shame spiral when I was in
Yes.
because I just wanted to wallow and feel
Yes.
helpless because somebody
Yes.
else would have to fix this because I didn't do this.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
Right. That's so real.
it changed the world when I did it.
Yep.
Man, it was
Yep.
one of the hardest things I've worked on so far.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's scary as well. It takes a lot of bravery to do this work, I'm coming to find.
Oh,
Of
absolutely.
like, yeah, keeping your feet on the ground enough to be able to tell yourself, I'm safe and I'm going to choose to get big and I'm going to choose to grow, even if it inevitably makes people around me uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Um, I just started reading just this week a book. I think the exact title is Women Who Run with Wolves, but
Oh,
it's
that
from
sounds
the
good.
90s. It's so good. It talks about like the wild woman archetype, and it's written by this Jungian psychoanalyst who has her PhD, so it brings in psychology.
I love psycho.
Um, yeah, it's really fascinating
That
so
down.
far. Yeah, yeah, it was like a bestseller in the 90s. And this woman is such a badass. She has Mexican heritage, but was adopted by Hungarian immigrants in
Oh, wow. All
Michigan.
kinds of identity.
And so just has a lot, yeah, just a
Yeah.
lot of exposure and a lot of mix in there. And then she got her PhD in studying it was psychology, but it was specifically like tribal groups and
I
studying.
did that in my undergrad.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. So I think you would really like this then. Different
Oh,
legends and just the different female archetypes over history. And
okay.
it just, yeah, it has that connection to nature that I really love. I'm getting off topic.
No, that sounds
Sharing.
fabulous. I actually used
Yeah.
to work in an indigenous, a non-reservation Native American housing community. There we go.
Interesting.
And I had Sioux kids and Ojibwe kids most of the time. And
Fascinating
I,
perspective.
I
That's
love
so
I
cool.
loved my kids. I still am in touch with some of them today. But my
Mm,
boss's name was his last name was Bad Heart Bull. How cool is that? I mean, come on.
it's way cool.
But I also in my undergrad, real quick, I studied where where tribal rights are limited when it comes to um children in the foster care system. And who
Mm.
has what jurisdiction where and how, like,
Oh,
for
wow.
instance, it's not abnormal for indigenous kids to be raised by their grandparents.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Removed in our society if we're involved because we don't see that as a social construct. It's okay. So very interesting stuff. I'm gonna look into that book. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
Overall,
Oh, fascinating
I
intersection.
love I love finding out where my biases are, even when I'm uncomfortable, even when I'm
Yes.
uncomfortable.
Yes, and I think we're asking people to do uncomfortable work. We've done uncomfortable work before. And so even just normalizing, like you just gotta look. And
Yeah.
one thing that I'm really starting to embody is just radical honesty of what's in front of me, no
Like,
matter how hard it is, and being able to just take the blinders off and look at it for what it is. So I know how to move through it and I know how to address it and trusting that I can do that. So yeah, addressing biases ties all that together.
and I kind of look at it as like we have the potential to do real damage if we
Yes.
aren't honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And none of us, I would guarantee, got into this work to do any damage.
Right.
So being cognizant of where we are so that what
Yes.
we're doing is healing.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the other that could happen.
Yeah. 100% agree. Yeah. It's been, it's good pressure, right, to
Yeah.
feel that, but it's been weighing on me and making a transition out of marketing where I'm just
It's very
selling stuff,
right.
which, isn't in a roundabout way, it could hurt people, just consumerism, and there's all of that. But it was a little
I can do
soulless in
it.
that way.
Yeah.
But now going into this, there's a responsibility. There's a massive responsibility to be as honest with yourself, as grounded in yourself, to be able to show up the best you can for your clients. And we take that very seriously, going into this. So yeah,
Yeah.
this was a great exercise.
Awesome. I appreciate you doing this with me, Jen.
Yeah,
Go
you too.
ahead and I'll upload this. Um,
Okay.
Probably still recording. It is. It's saying that.
Thank
Um,
God.
and then put our references on there, our sources as
Great.
well. Okay.
That's great. Okay.
Awesome. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, you too, Emilyne. Great to chat again.
Yeah. Bye.
Have a good day. See you. Bye.